Hey, welcome back to the Gilbertson Aero Factory. Today it's Wednesday, the 7th of January, 2025. Only 51 more weeks to go in this year. If you're paying close attention, you'll see that I actually started without you, but not very much. Just 5 minutes of getting the spars clecoed in and ready for riveting, and then gathering up the correct rivets for today's assignment. Yeah, that's what it's going to be today. Riveting these spars into place, and that includes the piano hinge. And when I said before, there are decisions to be made about that. You need to create a way that you can pull the piano hinge out so you can remove the flap from the wing. The plans suggest on the outboard portion of the flap, creating a little turn down, and you can pull it out that way, which I think would be difficult to do with the aileron in place. One thing that people have done, Tim did it, is instead they create a split in the middle of the piano hinge, and so there are two halves of the pin that would be in here that you cut separate pieces. I think I'm going to go that route. So I'm sure I'm going to tell you more about all of this when we get into the actual building of an airplane. Therefore, we should just build an airplane. Okay. Okay, welcome back to some more high-speed airplane building. This was a 5-hour session. It was, I would say, legitimately cold today. Yes, I have the door open because when I walked into the garage, it was 38 outside and it was 40 in the garage, so might as well open it up. Let's see. So beginning with, okay, so I put the spars in, but I'm not done with that yet. I can't start riveting right away. When I was talking about decisions that have to be made, there are a couple of different ways that you can deal with that long piano hinge. That's ultimately what holds this thing onto the airplane. One half of the piano hinge is attached to the flap. The other half is attached to the flap brace. And the pin that goes in it, you have to decide what you want to do with it. Do you want to leave it where it's one long pin that goes all the way through, or an acceptable and popular mod here is to, in the middle, somewhere along the midpoint of the flap, remove like 3 of the eyelets, like 2 from one half of the hinge and 1 the other, so 3 consecutive to make a little room. And then split the pin there and make a little retainer so that instead of trying to wrestle a 56-inch long pin out with very little clearance, you have more room here to split it in the middle. That's what I've decided to do. So what I needed to do was get the spar in and fit it up, get the hinge clecoed on so I could see exactly where I wanted to do this. And people do different spots. I chose to do similar to what I think his name is Mike Foss, an RV-8 hanger, did. And basically more or less the midpoint of the hinge. So once I decided where it was going to go, then it was a matter of attaching a nut plate on that part of the web of the spar. And so that's what you see me doing here. Kind of fished around for what I thought would be an appropriate size nut plate with an appropriate size screw, and got all that business done. This was pretty uneventful. Things didn't get eventful until actually nothing was really particularly difficult today. It did take a fair amount of time to get this done because it's certainly not something that I want to try to move quickly through. That never really works out for me. In terms, I usually end up doing something 3 times if I try to do it quickly because I end up breaking stuff. And it's been a while since I've had to order new parts. Okay, good. This is a good point to discuss here. So what I did was I attached the attached the piano hinge, and I marked not only the spot. Okay, I was getting too cold. I couldn't handle it anymore, so I went up to the attic to grab the radiant heater, which I've hesitated to bring out because I think I've mentioned that this garage is on a 15 amp breaker. And what happens is, and it ended up happening multiple times today, is if I have the heater on and the compressor kicks on, it trips the breaker, and it is a pain in the ass. So one of the projects that I need to get to is rewiring the garage circuits and take it up to at least a 20 amp for the outlets, but I'll also be adding 220 on a 30 amp outlet for my welder. Okay, busting the Dremel out. This is what we're going to talk about. I marked off the eyelets that I call them barrels, but the eyelets that I was going to remove from the hinges, 2 from one side, 1 from the other. So I marked them with my blue marker, and then I got a cutout wheel on the Dremel, and then I can make my trims. And on the one that's in the foreground, unbelievable. I have 2 of them marked, and when I flipped it over to do it, I started on the wrong one, so I cut an extra one off. Come on, man. It didn't impede the work that I was doing today, other than I did get on the phone with Van's builder support. So one of my thoughts was on the spot where the missing eyelet is, just making a trim there in the piano hinge and then splicing in a new, quote unquote, splicing in a new piece. So I have some scrap over there. I can take another one where the barrel or the eyelet obviously isn't cut off and put it in that spot. What that will mean is that long run of 56 inches will not be continuous. There will be a break in there where I've put that piece in, but I can still do that and then just add a doubler where those breaks occur, and everything will be fine. That's one idea. When I talked to Van's builder support, they said that's something that you can do. And of course, the other option is just order another length of that piano hinge. I'm going to be ordering some anyways I think that's what I'm going to do for the wingtips. So I'm going to be ordering some. The other thing that he said was like one missing eyelet in the middle of the span is not going to be significant. You can leave it like it is. That one spot's going to look like a kid who's missing a front tooth. So it's not a decision that I have to make right now because I think I said it didn't impede me in the work that I'm doing today because, excuse me, as it turns out, it was the piano hinge that attaches to the flap brace, not the one that gets riveted to the flap. So I can make up my mind what to do about it later. Knowing that it's fine the way it is fine, but it might just bother me, even though nobody will ever see it. It might still bother me. So I'll take a look at ordering some piano hinge for the wingtips. I know that Tim said one type is on back order that he's waiting on. I'm not sure if it's the type that I need for this. So anyways, that's that. Let's see what happened next. Okay, so now that has been done, I got the nut plates attached. I got the piano hinges eyelets trimmed, although obviously didn't do that great of a job on one of them. What a boneheaded mistake. Okay, so you see me with Pro Seal out there. If you recall the bonus hole, speaking of piano hinge blunders, the bonus hole I made when I began this whole thing. Now it's finally time to rivet that thing on. I made a patch, a doubler to span that gap, and just to add an additional bit of strength to it, I'm laying down some Pro Seal to help bond it and just create some additional strength and stiffness there. So that's what I did there. The world's tiniest amount of Pro Seal ever mixed for one work session for that little doubler that I made. Got that in there, and riveted on, and then just started riveting on that is the right flap. So yeah, began with riveting the bottom, so what we're riveting is the bottom skin to the spar to the piano hinge. And it's totally doable with the squeezer as long as you're using the correct yoke and the correct set for it, so that you can reach over those eyelets without any threat of crunching them. And take your time. Take your time, because you are coming at it. It's possible to mess these rivets up. I'm not saying mess them all up, but I mean it's easy to slip off, because you are kind of holding the rivet squeezer in space until the ram comes up to meet the skin. So just take your time, go slow. They all turned out fine, with one exception. I didn't end up drilling out the very last. There you see me doing it. And the other thing that I did, you might have caught earlier, once I did all of them, I went back and I did them again. I did another pass, because once I finally got to the end, I was able to get a rivet gauge in there and inspect, and I needed to go over them again, just tighten up the gap a little bit so that they were set properly. They were all a little bit under squeezed, so just one pass that added, I don't know, 270 seconds to my build session, so it wasn't a big deal. Once that was done, I think right now I'm on the phone with builder support talking about what we were talking about. So replaced the one rivet on the very end that it was a little bit awkward, and I wasn't happy with how it set. Got that done, and then we'll get into riveting the top skin, which has that big curve. And as awkward as that curve is, this was really, really, really easy to rivet and just set really nice, clean rivets. Now, it's easy because I have that short, heavy bucking bar that nests really nicely within. I think that came into play when I was riveting the ailerons as well. That heavy, stubby bucking bar, my favorite one, fits perfectly in the web of that spar right there. So it's almost impossible to mess these rivets up, because it can just sit nice and flat on the web of that spar, and plenty of room to get behind the rivet, and all you have to do is control the rivet gun. And the other thing that makes it really nice is, I don't know if I've showed you this, it's probably been a long time, but the flat set, the mushroom set that I have for that rivet gun, the one that I have on there, is a pretty wide one, and it's got a rubber foot or some type of rubber, whatever. It's got like a rubber footy around it. It's very easy to not only is it easy to control, but if you do lose control and it tries to skip along the skin, instead of a metal mushroom set skipping, it's that rubber that's bouncing along. So all that to say that choice in bucking bar and that choice in the mushroom set for that rivet gun made this riveting on the top of the flap look much better than I actually am. It turned out pretty sharp. I didn't get to any riveting on the left flap. I thought that, like all things, I thought I would knock this out and get the rest of this riveting done today, but I'd forgotten about the fact that I had to do that business with the spar, and that was a little time consuming. And then, like I said, the other riveting, it is a lot of riveting, and you don't want to rush through it, because why make mistakes when you don't have to? So here we go. The right flap is basically done. It is done. It is all riveted and closed up, and the piano hinge is attached, and I'm super happy about it. So if I have time tomorrow, I'll do the other one, and it will just be riveting on the left flap. So we'll see you then. Thanks for being here.